What's up guys, this is Chris here, and today we're going to be talking about one of the most common mistakes in shooting. Today we're going to be talking about recoil control, but very specifically limp wristing. Limp wristing is common when they don't have enough recoil control, but there's a few techniques and there is a few improvements that you can make to yourself to easily avoid this. Before we get into the video, I do want to mention the sponsor of this video, which is the Sonoran Desert Institute. The SDI has been a long-time sponsor of the channel and we really appreciate them. It's something we really believe in, firearms education, and I think that everybody should be educated in firearms, but if you want to work on them as a job, this is the best place to go. You can get an education in gunsmithing, you can get an education in drone technology. If you want to do that, maybe start your own company or work for one of your dream companies, just go check them out, the Sonoran Desert Institute. Now, what happens when you limp wrist a pistol is basically you are not giving it enough pressure for it to cycle itself.
Limp wristing?
It's possible it's a little limp wrist action. So you take this Glock here, which is a very common, if not the most common type of pistol, made on the most common type of semi-automatic action, which is the Browning tilting barreled system. When the gun goes off, the gun cycles where the slide comes back to the rear like that, all the way to the rear, stops for a moment, allows the round to come out, and then allows the magazine spring to push the round up into the line of the chamber there, and the slide picks it up and pulls it into the chamber. The most common reason people limp wrist is simply a lack of pressure. Now, whether that be a lack of strength, a lack of technique, we're gonna go through both of those today. Another thing that can cause that is stiffer recoil springs as well. So keep in mind that you might have a lot of limp wristing issues on something that maybe is made in Turkey. It might be made for higher pressured 124 grain NATO spec ammunition, and you're shooting Walmart 115 grain out of it, and you have to have a whole lot of pressure in order to get that thing to cycle. So it is gun dependent as well. It also is dependent on your grip, your hand size, and just your general technique. So we're gonna discuss recoil control today, not on just the Glock, but we're gonna talk about micro pistols as well, since they are much harder, and talk about pistols that are a little bit easier and what makes them recoil less and what makes them more reliable even if you are susceptible to limp wristing. First thing we're gonna go over is just grip basics. So how do you get your grip? First thing we do is we take the web of our hand and we position it about right there on the back of the grip of the gun, and I like to wrap my hands around till where my middle knuckle is pretty close to the trigger guard. And I like that because it gives me a good front to back squeeze, which is really nice, and then my left hand kind of takes care of the side to side squeeze. Now when we get our grip, we try to leave as much as possible. Now I know a lot of people tell you to cover up as much as possible, but to be completely honest with you, your dominant hand, most likely your right hand, but it could be your left hand, is probably doing way too much of your recoil control, and your left hand is probably doing too little. So first off, everybody says 70-30, 80-20, just squeeze whatever's comfortable for you. I have a tendency to squeeze until right before my hands start shaking. That way I can still operate the trigger finger. Now, however much that is to you, is to you. So I squeeze right here, I get my forward and rearward pressure right there, and then I take my support hand, and this bitch is the vise. This is the one we keep really, really good, because you don't have to have any finger dexterity or whatsoever with your left hand, so it's just gonna squeeze. If you shoot all day at the range and your left hand isn't sore, you're doing something wrong. Jerry Mitchell. We try to fit our hand into the grip like that, and I have a tendency to roll mine over, and that's because my hands are really big. If your hands are not and they fit in there a specific way, just do it whatever way it fits for you. I have really long fingers, so my fingers come over more, so I have a tendency to really want to get the palm of my hand on that gun, because the palm of your hand is what's going to squeeze really hard, and you need as much surface area as possible to create friction, and friction is what stops the gun. No, a gun has good texture. That's where your recoil control comes from right there. So we come in here, we squeeze really hard, and then I wrap my hand all the way around right underneath the trigger guard, and then I have a tendency to place my thumb as a drive. However, most people tell you not to do that. You can do whatever you want. Now, I like that, but I do admit that it is a bit of a crutch sometimes, and it doesn't always work depending on what gun you use. It works really well on Glocks though. So come over here like this, squeeze like that, and that's your basic grip right there. You're just trying to completely consume the grip with your hands, and you're trying to get a good bit of pressure with your left hand side to side. I basically just kind of squeeze in like that. So what I'm doing is just squeezing in, and the pressure comes from my fingers, and it comes from the bottom of my palm here, whatever you call that. Now you have to remember that do not over squeeze with your dominant hand because you will affect your trigger finger, and your trigger finger matters on whether or not you actually hit the target. Now the second thing you have to be careful of is the biggest mistake, which we talked about low and left, is going to be anticipating that recoil and squeezing at the last moment with your right hand. So you're squeezing as hard as you can with your left, and at the last moment your right hand wants to join in the party because 2 is better than 1, and then you have a tendency to throw the shot either low and left or low. So keep that in mind when you're doing it. You're going to have to work it out and make sure you still hit your target while you have good recoil control. A good way to do that is a lot of ammo, practice, and a timer.
Or compress ready.
Oh my God!
Now, one of the most important things when it comes to avoiding limp wristing is making sure the pressure is forward on your right hand enough. So what you want to do is think of kind of a vice mechanism, locking out that wrist, right? Jerry Mitchell talks about this a lot. I learned a lot of how to shoot based on Jerry Mitchell videos. So you can see this forearm muscle right here. It has to engage and push the gun forward. You want to feel a lot of pressure on the web of your hand. You want to push up here and pull down here with your 2 bottom fingers, specifically your pinky finger. Now I know people's pinky fingers are weak, but you got to work that bad boy out. Start doing pinky promises a little more and you'll be okay. Now pull down here. It probably looks better from over here, so I'll see if I can do it with my left hand here. But you basically push a lot of pressure right here and squeeze these 2 right here. And what that does is it helps stop it from flipping up and flipping back down. There's 2 schools of thought when it comes to shooting quickly. One school of thought is to make sure you don't overdrive the gun and kind of let the gun pop up and then come back down on target. I don't like that method. I like just holding it down here like this, squeezing it as hard as I can, and having it pop up the minimum amount possible so I get back on target quicker. Again, all of this is my opinion. None of this is set in stone. The issue with shooting videos at all is that a lot of techniques work and there is not one path to victory, and it works based on your hand size and your experience. So if none of this stuff works for you and you find a video that works better, do that. Now the reason why I'm giving you these general rules of thumb instead of telling you exactly where to place your hand like a lot of gun tubers would do is because shit gets weird when the grip gets small. So now you can see here that my overall mechanics are still in place, but now there's absolutely no space whatsoever for your support hand, which is a bit of an issue because I just told you your support hand does all your recoil control. Well, now you're gonna have to do the majority of it with your right hand because you can't really hold on with your left hand, and that is going to affect your accuracy, which is why you often see me shoot bigger guns better than smaller guns. That's because everyone does because of the smaller grip. Now, it's going to have more muzzle kick as well because of how recoil works in a pistol. So what happens is you get a bunch of gas out the front, the slide reciprocates to the rear, and it has a tendency to pop up like this. So again, we're going to make sure we really have our wrists locked out. We're going to make sure our pinky and our palm are squeezing each other together. And I'm going to actually open up the top of my grip, right, like this, just enough to fit that hand in there so I can get some pressure on. But most of the pressure from my left hand isn't going to be on the gun, it's going to be on my fingers into the back of my hand. I'm trying to push my fingers through my hand. So when I'm squeezing, it's going to look a lot like that. Now it's not perfectly open like that because I want to have a good grip on the back of the gun, but it is better than nothing. And on smaller guns I have a tendency to drive more because that's basically the only contact I can get with the gun. Now, is that something you should do? Again, maybe, maybe not. It's up to you. But just remember that grips are not going to be 100% reliable across the board because sometimes grips are really small, sometimes grips are really fat, and then sometimes you have controls in the way, which is why we have this guy out there. So a lot of times the grip angle will change, your ability to hold onto the gun will change, or in the case of a 1911, where oftentimes I ride the manual safety, any manual safety gun like this in this configuration I ride because the number one malfunction with manual safeties is to pop it on by accident, and you're not going to do that if you're squeezing down. On top of that, it's a big fin for recoil control, so if you have big enough hands to do this, why the fuck not? So I do already have to adjust my grip for the manual safety, but on top of that, the grip is straighter and thinner. So I'm gonna have a little bit different feel on the gun, and instead of being all the way over here like I am with the Glock, I'm actually back here a little bit because it doesn't really matter what angle you're at as long as you're getting the most surface area. Now that's just my opinion, but I can also do this. The issue with riding the manual safety is if you do have small hands, there's really no way to overcome it other than just putting your hands underneath the safety, which is why they make multiple styles of guns. So you don't have to shoot a 1911. You can find guns with a much smaller grip. If you get like a PDP or even a 365 XL Macro or something like that. Those guns are comped, they have very small grips, and they would be a phenomenal gun to shoot quickly if you had tiny little hands. For me, I can't shoot the 365s very well, which is why I carry a Shield Plus, because I have bigger hands and I just can't change that. Some things you're just gonna have to figure out what works the best for you. Now in a minute we'll talk about a little more, but first up I wanna talk about a couple exercises that you can use to strengthen your grip. All grips can be strengthened, and my wife had no recoil control when she first shot, and now look at her, she shoots like a pro. And the reason for that is because not only do you get more practice and more reps and you learn to work with your gun, but when you are shooting, you are getting grip exercise right there. Your hands should be tired when you're done shooting to begin with. On top of that, if you have a regular workout regimen like I do, just add a few things in every week that actually work on your grip. First off, pull-ups in general work on your grip really well. So if you do a lot of pull-ups, you're probably gonna have a pretty strong grip, but you can add a towel to that. One of the things I used to do for wrestling when I was in high school, and I've kind of been doing it ever since, is you just put a towel around your pull-up bar and you just squeeze it with your hands. I used to do this for jiu-jitsu as well, and you just do a pull-up and you hold. And that will really work the shit out of your hands. You wouldn't believe your recoil control if you do that a lot. On top of that, you can get those little grip exerciser things, but honestly, I just have these little weight placeholders that I have for my set of weights that you can squeeze, and they're like 80 pounds, and I just hold those for about 10 seconds and let go, because the cool thing about shooting is you're not holding for 30 or 40 seconds. Usually shooting is like 10 second or so bursts, so you don't need a lot of grip stamina, but you do need a lot of strength. Now, I want to point out some of the issues with other techniques I've seen on YouTube quick. Not to be a hater, but honestly, it bothers the shit out of me when people teach grip strength and then they use something like this. So I saw a video the other day on YouTube, I'm not going to name names, but he literally was teaching a different, unique way to shoot a gun. Like he had a grip that I've never seen before, and then he demonstrated it on a Staccato XC, which has no recoil to begin with. Fast enough for you? So like, keep in mind that you have to be very careful on who you use as an example and what you decide to try. But honestly, if anything looks like it works, try it. Because I do a lot of techniques myself that a lot of other tactical instructors don't agree with, but simply due to the size of my hands or the way that I shoot, it works for me. Now, I bring up Jerry Michalek because he's probably the best shooter I've ever seen, but he actually has a different technique than most people, where he actually covers the trigger guard with his finger, and Limp also does that. Now, I would never do that, but I can't deny that that works for Jerry Michalek. So things like that, if you want to add them in and you automatically feel more stable, then by all means do that. The only person that should judge how you shoot and the techniques you use are you, with a timer and a log. So keep track of your drills, have some specific drills that you want to try. For example, a bill drill is a really good way to go, because you're gaining the grip from the holster, you're presenting the gun, and then on top of that you have to fire 6 rounds. Most people do drills with 1 or 2 rounds. If you fire 6, the gun will start jumping around in your hand more, and you can feel where you need more pressure or not. Now, if you put all those things together and you do a few sets of towel push-ups, I have really, really low expectations. You're still gonna limp wrist. However, I can show you a few more things, and that has to do with the way you stand and your body. I don't like to teach a lot of stance when it comes to shooting, because if you're shooting in a active scenario, whether that be a USPSA event or maybe a concealed carry event, you could be shooting laying down, sitting up, on a knee, running, and I don't like to teach a lot of lower body, but as a general principle, you should stand the way somebody teaches you how to stand in football practice or wrestling. You should probably have 1 foot slightly forward, be in a fighting stance, and then also not lean, but certainly not lean backward either. All right, gun is clear. I'm obviously gonna be pointing the gun at the camera here in a second. First off, I'm gonna show my shoulders, and I'm gonna show what my arms are doing, because I feel like the top of your body above your hips is the most important when it comes to recoil control. You have to be able to control the recoil, whether you're in this perfect shooting stance, like you're at the range, for example, on a flat range, or if you're actually in a USPSA match, you might be able to shoot this way, moving sideways or rearward. But my point is, your feet are gonna be moving and your upper body stays the exact same. So what I like to do, and now this is just my technique, I like to stand in the exact same stance that I learned how to box in and that I learned how to wrestle in. Just because I might be boxing or wrestling before I shoot, or potentially after if I suck at shooting. So I like to stand like that because it gives me a feeling that I can get up and move. Now, I don't know if you guys know who Ben Stoker is. I learned a lot about my movement from Ben Stoker, and Ben Stoker always likes to shoot in a low athletic stance. That way you can fire out of that stance if you need to. So whether that be 1 foot forward, this way, or even your right foot forward if you're left-handed, doesn't really matter as long as you kind of have a bent athletic stance. Now, as far as your upper body goes, a lot of what goes into your grip and recoil control is your hands, but a lot of what people don't put in is your ass. So you need to have weight in that, and if you are doing a lot of limp wristing, just lean a little more forward and put some pressure on it. Like actually engage the shoulders, actually engage your pecs, and just put some shoulder on it. And it kind of looks something like that. If I'm gonna shoot a like 44 Magnum or something like that, I'm gonna be kind of in this position here. Now again, it gets weird with small guns, but it gets even weirder shooting one-handed. So you're still gonna have to manage recoil shooting one-handed, and that's where it gets really tricky. So for the most part, my body stays the same. My knees, my hips, everything stays the same. I'm not doing this crazy tactical turtle thing that you see a lot on YouTube because I'm not shooting a 44 Magnum. I'm up straight, my head's up because I can look, I can move, I can go side to side, which is really important. But on top of that, even with one hand, I can still control recoil. So a lot of times when I shoot with one hand, pull the hand back because you don't want to shoot your fingies off. That would suck. Now, when I'm aiming at the target, there's a whole bunch of wrist engagement right here. And you see my pinky, how it's going white? That's how much I'm using that pinky. So you're squeezing that grip down and you're keeping that gun on target. Now when the gun shoots, no matter what you do, there's no left hand anymore. So the gun is gonna go high and left. It always goes to the path of least resistance. That's obviously gonna be in reverse for left-handers. So if we come over here, if you get shot in the hand or something and you have to pick your gun back up and shoot with your left hand, you're gonna be over here like this. And I always like to blade more with one hand because I'm putting more of that body in front of the gun. With that being said, hopefully I didn't forget anything because I very well may have. We kind of did this off the top of my head, but the last time we did a shooting video was the low and left video, and you guys seem to really, really like that. So hopefully you like this one too, and hopefully it helps out some of you. We've had a few employees lately that are new, and we're gonna be having a new employee on the channel here in the future, which you're gonna see, and you have seen him before. He's my nephew, and he occasionally has a tendency to limp wrist, and we're gonna be working on that with him. So I have no problem with showing a full video, how we train him and how we train to fix that. It's not a strength issue, it's just an issue of knowing where to put that strength. So a lot of things in shooting are technique. Just because you're a 100-pound girl or a 300-pound man doesn't mean you automatically do or don't have recoil control. There's lots of girls who win world championships. All you have to do is have a little strength in those arms, in those shoulders, put that ass into it, and you can get her done. If you want more of these or you want me to elaborate even further, I probably can. Just let me know in the comment section below what you guys want to see next. I like doing shooting tutorials, so if you're interested, just let me know in the comments. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Please help out your Oklahoma shelters, and remember to recycle. I'll check you later.